Okay, it's 8:30 and we'll call this May 13th meeting of the Finance Committee to order. We'll begin with roll call. Stacy Hessel, John Righeimer, Mark Helwig, Tom Duffy is excused, Jeff Haney. We have a quorum. We'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Let the record show that this meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by Section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes. We'll begin the meeting with elections for the position of chair and vice chair. I'll now open the floor for nominations for the position of chair. A person receiving a majority vote of members entitled to a seat shall be declared elected. This vote shall take place by voice vote. If no majority is reached, we will continue to nominate until a majority is reached. Once the candidates have been nominated, they will be afforded the opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. So at this time, I will open the floor for nominations for the position of chair.
Madam Clerk, I nominate Ron Kinsley. Oh, you're not? I'm sorry. Oh, that's right. You're the chair. Okay.
I nominate John Righeimer.
We have a nomination for John Righeimer for the position of chair. Do we have a second nomination? Third and last call for the nomination of chair. Hearing none, we'll close those votes and cast a unanimous vote for Mr. Righeimer as chair. All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Congratulations. And we'll do the same process for vice chair. We'll open the floor for nominations of vice chair for that position.
I nominate Ms. Hessel for vice.
I'll second.
Do we have any second nominations for the position of vice chair? Third and last call? Hearing none, we'll call for unanimous vote of position of vice chair with Ms. Stacy Hessel. All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Congratulations to you both. I can turn the meeting over to Mr. Righeimer.
Thank you, everyone. It's tough shoes to fill with defeating Mr. Kinsley. Thank you. It's an honor. Meeting agenda is set. Public comments. Doesn't appear to be anybody in the room. Is there anybody online?
There is not, other than Mr. Colson.
No public comments?
No public comments.
Okay. Oh. Cheers. We need approval of the minutes from the previous meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of 4/11/24.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Minutes pass. Okay, we move on to the treasurer's report. No?
Yep, there was one.
Oh.
Sent it in.
Okay, there is a written report. Has everybody seen the written report, or should I be reading it off?
Lynn's got it up there.
Oh, okay.
Ask if there's any questions.
Are there any questions on the treasurer's report? Any comments, Andy? Mike, any comments?
No comments.
Okay, no comments, then we'll move on. Finance Department report.
Thank you. For those of you new to the committee, what this is I take the sales tax report that we get from the state and I plugged it into a spreadsheet that I created that projects out for the year. So the further we get into the year, the more accurate it is prediction of the end of the year. I've got data from about the last 6 years there. And we have data now for 4 months, January through April. April was down. April would represent February settlements for the most part. February, of course, we know didn't have a lot of snow, didn't have the tourism we usually do, and it greatly affected Berkey. So I'm not shocked that it's down. But for the year, we're still up. So we're projected to hit a little over 3 million. We budgeted, I think, 2.8. So we still are on track to hit budget and a little bit over even, hopefully. Hopefully it's not a downward trend. Right now it's a 1 month aberration. So that's what we're going to go with until we see more. The numbers in red are projected numbers. Numbers in black are always the ones that are actual. So the red ones are a formula that I plugged in there to predict the future. And then the graph underneath then shows actuals and predicted, but you can see the trajectory for each of the last 6 years too, for both month by month and cumulative total. Any questions on sales tax? All right, then we'll move on to budget performance. We are 33% of the way through the year now, through April. And what you can see here is first we're looking at general fund, and it's kind of a line by line revenue of each general fund account that we use. There are a couple that I would like to point out, bigger ones that we're doing well in right now. Sales tax is actually under, but we get a lot of the money in the summer, so we'll catch up once the summer months hit. We're doing very well on stumpage right now. We're at 65%, so really about double the running budget right now, which is great. Same on interest on investments. We saw a record year last year for interest, and there's been talk of reducing rates, so we didn't want to budget quite to what we did last year, but we're running ahead on budget, and rates are looking good. I mean, there was talk of dropping rates in June. It's not going to happen. Now they're looking even to into the fall, and probably just 0.25% at that. So they're holding strong. And we are going to talk about some interest potential, some investments later. Then you can just see the rest of them.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
On the interest, is it pretty quick if you want to lock them in? I mean, it's just a matter of making a phone call to lock them in, or
Yeah, I can lock
to
them in
respond?
in a day.
Okay, so there's timing wise, you're
The way we're set up is I have to bring it here for approval
okay.
to purchase them. But yes, if we wanted to buy some
So
of these, I
other
can
than
get
that
them
delay, you can move quick.
Yep,
Okay.
very quickly. All right, if you want to scroll down a little more, Lynn. So then now we're looking at individual departments' revenues here. And we don't get a ton of money through these, but it's not insignificant either. And, everything's looking good for this time of year. The general fund as a whole, which you can't see because it's behind the camera, but it's at 34%. So we're actually just a little bit above even, which is good. Circuit court's running a little bit ahead. Register of Deeds, another one that's running ahead. You can keep scrolling down a little, please. Get down to, go up just a little bit. I think that's forestry again is running ahead. So they're in a great position. Sheriff's is right on target. Ambulance, we're running a little low.
Can you tell me what these columns are?
Sure. So the first column is the amended budget, which we haven't made any amendments. I just always use that one in case there are. The next one is year-to-date transactions. So what has come in so far this year. Then third column is the budget less what's come in. So that would be kind of the remaining budgeted transactions. And then the percent is that final one. So you go down to the bottom line on the general revenues, we're at 31%. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But if we go into expenses, that first big one there for 750 you see, that is one we always hope to not have to do. That is a fund balance draw. We have to budget a little bit of a draw to balance out the budget. Since I've been here, we haven't had to use it for that specific purpose. Last year we did do a distribution from surplus of 23 to other departments, but that's not what that number reflects. So then looking up and down, everybody's really right on budget on the expense side or revenue side. Some of the departments lag a little bit because they're grant heavy. not so much in general fund, but HHS and highway are both pretty reliant on grant money. So the expenses overall are at 30%, which is good. It's under the 33, which would be the expected budgeted amount. Then can go down a little bit more. So then there's the total for general fund. You can see the revenue is at 31%, but if I take out that 750,000 in fund balance draw, which we're hoping to not do, then we're at 34%. So then we are exceeding the budget by a little bit. And the expenses are at 30%. Along with that fund balance draw, we do have the planned transfer, a small one to both highway and Health and Human Services. Those are ones we hope not to have to do. So if I back those out, we're at 31% of expenses right now. So still under budget. Then looking at Health and Human Services, the revenue, again, they're very grant heavy. They're at 21% right now. It's always going to be a lag. A lot of them we don't collect until first quarter of the following year, the final distributions of grants. And then expenses were at 27%. So we are running a little under budget there, which is good too. A lot of that has to do with out of county placements. They can be quite expensive. And those lag in billing us too. So that's always runs a little bit behind. Highway department's kind of a similar story. The revenue's down because we are reliant on grants there. The expenses are low. You know, obviously our expensive season is when we're doing highway work in the summer, and that's when we have a lot of supply expense, right? Is in the summer months. So that'll catch up as well. Grand totals were, you know, almost right on. Got $1,000 loss right now, so that's pretty good. Any questions on the budget update? All right, then the next thing we always look at is CIP purchases. That's our capital improvement purchase projects that we do. Part of the reason we do this is to free up monies for other things. We, I think, did 1.5 million this year. It's a very short borrowing that we repay. It's outside of the regular levy limit. So that's why we do that. So we had a few purchases in April. One was an ambulance, got a mower for maintenance, which is mostly used out at the airport, I believe. We did some sidewalk work on 4th Street. I don't know if you noticed that right around the entrance on both sides. We corrected the slope a little bit there to make it easier. We did get a fan array. I believe that's for the Huber wing. That's to provide some redundancy because we were reliant solely on one heat source. If that went down, they were down. So this would be a backup and actually does a little better with efficiency of the heating system as well. And then we did a deposit to paint the courthouse. We actually got a really good bid on that. It's about half of what we had budgeted. It was a kind of a new bid that we did late, and they came in really good. Any questions on CIP purchases or why we do it? Yep. It's something we tossed about doing in-house and getting a piece of equipment to get up and do it, but the bid came in so low it didn't pay after that. It paid with the original bids we had, but not with the final one we got. Then the next thing I want to talk about is something new. We formed a wellness committee in January of this year. That was in response to a survey we did about a year ago, just kind of on staff benefits and what people felt about them. Out of that, we saw some things that we could do, so we formed a committee to put those to task. We budgeted this year $25,000. We're going to be under budget probably by quite a bit, but we're slowly getting this going to where we want it to. We had our first meeting in February, and it's gone well. The committee members are Lynn, Randy Ean, Nicole Rybczynski, Leslie Strapan, Jane Pearson, who has since retired, Mary Schliz Chukka, Sherry Jensen, and myself. First thing we did is we kind of took over the part of the training that we had in February. So we went to work right away. We provided the food and some of the scheduling, trying to get people to come in for that. Because we had training for our staff on procedures here, but then we also brought in health and wellness people in the community to put on some little seminars. So we helped with that. That went really well. We debriefed after that, and things that went well, things that didn't go well. Probably the biggest thing we'd like to see improved is if we could actually close the courthouse to the public that day. So maybe do it on a national holiday, federal holiday, because we have to man our station so not everybody could get to everything. The two main trainings we did AM, PM, so everybody got to go to that, but some of the non-mandatory ones, people didn't have the opportunity. So that's one thing we're going to fix. The biggest thing that came out of the survey from a year ago is people wanted some sort of reimbursement program for wellness, for gym memberships, other things like that. So what we even did this before we formed the committee. We had this effective January 1. So we do pay half of a membership per month up to $20 a month or $240 for the year. We provide 50% up to $240 for a piece of equipment for people who work out at home. And then the final piece is, and there can be other things too, weight loss programs. The final piece is 50% up to $25 for a registration for something like Berkey or a run. It has to be 5K or more. To this point for the year, we've spent about $2,250 on that. That was the main piece of the budget at $25,000 we were hoping for. We had a lot of comments requesting it a year ago when we did.
What was so 2,200 spent? What's the total budget for it?
Well, we budgeted $25,000 for wellness. Not all of it was for this.
So not a lot of people are doing it.
It's been slow growth, yeah. Like I was saying,
It's like New Year's Eve resolutions.
Yeah. A year ago, a lot of people wanted it. We haven't had as many actually participate as we were hoping, but it'll grow. Word will get out. And we put another blurb in the newsletter, I believe, last month. So hopefully we'll get some more. And other things we did. Well, the first thing we did when we met is I had everybody come prepared with ideas of what they wanted to see in a wellness program, all those members. And then I brought little stickies and a big whiteboard. And then we wrote down all the ideas. I had everybody put stickies on their top 3. So then we focused on those top 3 and kind of combined where we could of what made sense. So the 3 things that really came up with were staff would really like to see an outdoor gathering area. So we're looking at places where that could be, just a couple picnic tables, whatever. Or when it's nice out, they could have their lunch or sit out there for break. So that was one of the things. Employee recognition and support was another one. And that was one that really came up in the survey from a year ago as well. So what we're doing is Lynn has taken on starting a newsletter. It comes out monthly. We put things in there like new hire notifications so that people can see who the new people are, which there's been a lot since I've been here. I think we've hired more than 80 people in less than 2 years. So it's a lot. So we get to see who those people are. We put news within our county, what we're doing, and then also community events that are upcoming. So people are aware of those. And because we're trying to build a bridge between the community too as part of this, to let staff know what's going on around them so they can go out and participate. Another thing, which was another one of Lynn's great ideas, was a Blue Ribbon Service Award. So if any staff member sees another staff member going above and beyond, they shoot me an email with a description of what they witnessed. I make this little, well, it's not little, it's a full page, blue ribbon, who it's to, who it's from, the date, and then that description that the person sent me. I print that off, go to the person, take a picture with the blue ribbon. We put that in the newsletter, and they also get $10 in chamber bucks. So they get a little recognition, a little reward, and that also goes back into the community, doing it through chamber. So I think chambers usually say that money will turn over, is it 7 times? So that's just a good investment back in our community to do that. Yes.
I was gonna ask
Yeah.
if that's possible.
Yep, we'll put you on there.
Thanks, Lynn.
Great idea. Then the final thing that we're kind of working on is putting together 4 challenges or events throughout the year. The first one, like I said, we kind of inherited that first wellness training day. So we did work with that. We've got another one coming up in June. We're doing a cookout, which we've kind of done annually anyhow, but we're putting that on. And then along with that for May, month of May that we're in, Lynn created a bingo card with wellness things to do, like 10,000 steps or eat a salad for dinner, all that kind of stuff. So each day has a different thing. And then if you fill out the whole thing, we'll put you in a drawing for, I think that's $20 in chamber bucks. Or that one's 40. If you complete a line diagonal straight, that's a drawing for $20 in chamber bucks. So just some stuff to
Do we have, I mean, I think it's all good stuff. I mean, intuitively, it makes sense. You know, happy employees, more productive work. Do we have any benchmarks to over time? I'm assuming retention is going to be hopefully a big thing impacted by this, right? Productivity, hopefully, but I don't know how you'd measure that.
I did that at my previous employment. I jotted down, I had data from the previous years, and then I kept a log of when people left. I also kept why, because some, they moved for family reasons, whatever. You really don't want to count that against the employer. So that's something we could look at doing.
Yeah, I just think I've always felt throughout my career that this stuff is good. And when I was in the corporate world, I said I did it not because it felt good, but I did it because I think it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if you might have some people that question it, you have to show, it's worth the investment back. So,
well, you know me, I like data-driven decision making. So that anything we can have helps.
Chair, does it decreases our insurance rate, or is there anything that would show our insurance because you're making that effort?
I mean, the reason you do something like this, a wellness initiative, is twofold. Number one, we really do want healthy, happy employees. It's just a better work environment. But number two, if they're doing some of these things, especially, gym memberships, taking care of themselves a little more, that should help reduce some of the more chronic conditions that you typically do see.
Part of the survey that led to the wellness committee, about half of it was job satisfaction questions. We gathered input on what they'd like to see in wellness, but as we repeat the survey, we'll see where those scores go.
Yeah. Then one more thing we're working on is just getting some more artwork in the walls of the courthouse. I don't know if you've noticed, right out here, kind of across from the courtyard, we've got the state winners actually from Sawyer County of the land and conservation, whatever, artwork display. So there's a couple of those up there that I encourage you to walk by if you haven't already.
Mike, none of the wellness survey, nothing about coffee baristas or coffee.
I don't remember that, no, do you?
I didn't get started yet.
Looks like you really need to work on this room, art.
This is a little bland, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've reached out to, I think, the schools and maybe LCO too, as far as getting some artwork, but yes.
We have a mural out by the clerk's office. Can that be moved? Can they cut it out of there and move it, you think?
We don't know.
Okay.
And the plan is to cut into it to put a doorway into the mailroom.
Yeah.
And when they do that, they're going to see if it can be salvaged.
Because that potentially could fill a place or it was offered to take it off the air.
Oh.
Yeah, it should be moved. Thank you.
All right, any questions on wellness? So then the next thing on the agenda is the budget timeline for 25 already. Can't believe we're talking about that, but we are. Here we are. This is really the same as it's been for several years now, for sure since I've been here, but looking back, it looks like it's what you've always done. If there's anything you would like changed, you can let Andy or me know. This format is really set up for what we are, an administrative county. That's why you maybe don't see as many meetings with other groups as counties that are more of a county or a board led. So that could answer a couple questions there. But if you'd like to see anything changed, let me know probably as soon as possible, because we're already, a month from today is when we're going to really start digging in. So. And even any ideas for general budget ideas you'd like for June 13th, you could let me know ahead of time as well. Any questions on that? Then we will move on to investments. Another good month of just under $115,000 in total interest, which is great. You can see the breakdown of where we do invest. If you want to scroll down just one more click, didn't have to go that far. We do have ampersand on there now, which was our new one to get more diversification in our investments. So we do have $3 million with them. The ARPA money, I'll talk about those bottom three. The rest are all our investments. These bottom three are accounts that we are holding that are kind of out of the ordinary. ARPA money is basically spent all the way down now, and everything that's there is accounted for. We just haven't spent it yet. There is two $100,000 broadband contracts that we will be responsible for that should be done by the end of.
Mike, can you explain those three, maybe?
Yes.
Just a little bit of background.
Sorry, I forget.
Okay.
I've got new members here. So the first column is the current month. All the balances, and then the receipts, disbursements, and the interest earned. So the three green bars kind of divide where the money is: savings accounts, checking accounts, and then the total. Under the total are the actual earnings and expenditures that we had for the month. So receipts are what we took in from taxes, whatever, disbursements, all the bills we've paid, and then the interest totaling $114,664. So that's the first column. The next column over is all of the same data, just for a month ago, or the previous month. So that these are always a month behind because we don't have bank statements in time to put this together for the agenda. So the next one over is the previous month, which would be February. And then the last column there is the current month, but a year ago. So it would be March of 23. So you can just kind of compare where a year ago versus now. So a really quick comparison is the green bar total. In the previous year, we had $23,688,000. This year, we're at $25,993,000. So that's just a quick look. It's not always going to be the most accurate reflection of where we are because there's debt issues within that might not be spent down yet, which we do have. When you look at WISC General Fund, which is the second one down from the very top, that's usually going to be a debt issue. Proceeds from that have not been expended yet. And that can vary. What you're seeing, that's 1.5 million of that $2 million difference right there.
Mike, what is LATCF unspent?
Local Area Tribal Consistency Fund. It's kind of ARPA related. It's a payment we got in lieu of maybe some lost revenue, a one-time thing. Good question. That is not accounted for. We have not set up a recommendation for spending that down yet. Since it's one-time money, you don't want to just roll it in and use it on bills because then you have a hole at the end of that. So we're trying to find a really good project that will have lasting impact, but shorter cost.
Do we have a time frame to use that like we did ARPA?
Nope, it's general fund money that's just there. All right, so then the next thing would be possible investment changes. So I've been saying for a few months, probably time to buy some CDs. This is the time that we probably should look at it. What I'm proposing is this sheet that I put at your stations, because the bids, this is very volatile. So the bids were on Friday. So this is what's reflected of that. That's why it's not in the agenda. So just going down through it, I got bids from Who We Do Invest With. Ampersand came in with a stated rate of 5.11, and Ampersand and Whisk, the first Whisk anyhow, are multiple different investment banks coming up to this blended rate of 5.11. So Ampersand is a $3 million investment. The interest would be $153,000. There are issuance costs of $6,000 on that for a net $147,367 or 4.91%. Currently, our money markets are right around 5.3, so it is a little less, but this gives us security of 12 months guaranteed income. That's why we're looking at doing this. So Whisk/PMA has a stated rate of just over 5%. They did it a little different. They have a payout of $3 million versus an investment of $3 million. So the investment's 2.85, interest of 1.44. No, their costs are already built into that rate. For a net interest of 144, interest rate of just over 5 again. The T-bills through PMA has a 5.16 stated rate, $3 million investment, $154 million or $100,000 in interest, costs of just over $4,000 for a net interest of about $150,000, rate just over 5%. And then Franson, our local bank, gave me a quote of 4.9 on $3 million, $147,000 in interest, no cost, so that is the net interest. A little more background, obviously the highest rate is the Whisk PMA, just their CD investment series. The most return, because the Whisk CDs isn't on 3 million, would be the Whisk T-bills. Probably the most secure diversification is through Ampersand. If you're looking for a recommendation from me, I would do our local bank because the rates are very, very close. And I think keeping in the community is worth a couple $1,000s.
Maybe I missed this, I apologize. What does this represent in the overall portfolio of you would invest? So this 3 million, we're fixing in what percent of our total? How much is floating versus fixed, I guess?
Well, right now our balance is about almost 26 million. So
okay,
it's
so this is
really low percent.
Tiny percent.
Some of that is committed though. It's not like free money to invest.
Okay. And this is something you may leg into over time as well, I guess, is interest rates.
Yep. If interest rates are looking, you always want to stay ahead because once the news comes out that yes, they are dropping, then these are going to drop as well.
Right. And is there no value in 24, 36 months? Nothing?
I've analyzed it, because originally I talked about doing a ladder of, 6 month, 12 month, 18. It starts dropping off when you get over 12, because they're unsure too.
It's illiquid, yeah.
Yeah. And the shorter ones, to me, there's not enough. I mean, there's too much gap to give up what we're getting on the money.
This is kind of a start.
It's a start.
Kind
of
shore things up.
So
okay.
Where this money would come from, I probably would draw to keep our diversification uniform or more uniform, draw from that local government investment pool that has 10 million in, draw that down to 7, and then it would be closer to the other 2 pools we have. And use that to buy the CDs.
So your recommendation is Franson.
That's what I would recommend.
Are there any questions or Stacy?
I was just going to make a motion to approve going ahead with Franson Bank for the 12-month CD. I think it's important to keep things local also.
I would second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
This just stays here, right? Doesn't go to full board? Yeah.
Anybody opposed? Motion passes.
All right, then we'll go on to ambulance billing. I'll spend a little extra time on this too with a couple new numbers. So this is one thing we started looking at probably, well, it's probably been a year and a half now. But we changed billing companies just over 2 years ago now. The ironic thing is both the company we were with and company we were with most recently got bought out by the same company. So now it doesn't really matter. But what we saw happening in past years is our cost compared to what we were collecting was getting a little higher. So what we're hoping to do, and I wasn't here at the time, but change the billing structure so that it made more sense and we were keeping a higher percentage of what we were collecting. So that was the impetus behind it. So what we've done really ever since then is look at if it's working for us or not. So generally what we're looking at is a rolling 12-month cycle instead of year to year. So that just keeps it more comparable with what's actually going on. Believe it or not, that varies quite a bit, 12-month cycle versus a full year. So that's why we look at it that way. We have been billing with this company now since April of 22. There were 3 months where we didn't bill at all because we had decided to change. We withheld any billing from January through March of 22, then did a catch up in April. So that's all the data we're going to look at. Bear with me because there are a lot of things we look at here, a lot of different ways of looking at similar information, a lot of different information as well. So the first graph we look at every month is an aging schedule. An aging schedule is our receipts that are outstanding that have not been yet paid to us. So there are several columns here. It goes month by month, and then I have the year listed. The count is how many debts we have outstanding right now each month. So you can see there is a little bit of an uptick there. And some of that is due to the billing company being taken over and changing their software and everything. So unfortunately, we're seeing some repercussions of that. Hopefully that switches or works itself out and we see all the money come in. But then I've got a current, which would be 0 to 30 days, 31 to 60, 61 to 90, 91 to 120, 121 to 180, and then over 180 days. And then the total that's outstanding. And then a couple things I've thrown in are the percent current, which is anything under 30 days, and then the percent over 120 days, because that's when you start thinking, well, we should be seeing money by then. So we had been running, very consistently in our current percentages and our current of over 120 with the shakeup in the billing company itself. We've seen those numbers go probably not where we would want them, less current, more longer outstanding debt. So it's something we're working on with them. I'm working with John and we're trying to, get caught up. There's some things happened on our end late in the year. We did some training with LifeQuest, who was our billing company, with our staff to make sure we're not missing things we should be billing for. We felt maybe we weren't maximizing some of our billings. So we worked on that. And then they as I said, switched over their software. So then there was a lag in stuff getting through. So we're working with them to get all that stuff worked out.
So these numbers are gonna look back.
They sure better look better, yeah. Because it's getting, the number's getting big and the percent over 120 days is getting big too, so. But some other factors in this, we've had really low billings the last 3 months too, which I'll get into a little bit. So the next graph we look at is average calls per month per year. And again, this isn't a calendar year, this is a 12-month rolling average. So you can see we're down from where we were. Part of that is we're not getting, we've talked this many times, but you two have not heard this. We're not getting the transport calls we used to. And transports you want because it's easy money. You're going to get the money. You don't have to wait for collections. It's going to come in. The hospital is one that calls.
Yeah. We're gonna have not been able to. This goes back a couple of years. It's not improved yet. Just kind of not getting as many calls from the hospitals. Transportation. Providers that do it. Part of it's been just consistently having us having staff available to do probably one of the costs.
Yeah. And we've done some things to remedy that. We've gone from transitioning from 3 people in 2 ambulances to 2 each in 3 ambulances. We're actually have 1 more rig available. And we also are having a medic in each rig is what we're getting towards.
So we're getting some nurses on board.
Yep. Which would count as a medic. So that should help as well.
Can I?
Yeah.
So has there been efforts made for us to sit down with the hospital, or is it just on Mr. Frommel's shoulders to sit down with the hospital? Is there anything? Okay.
And he's done.
Okay.
Right now, I mean, we've got kind of where we're going with the medics and ambulances. I think 3 rigs available more often. And we brought in nurses on, otherwise we've been short staffed. So we're working, we have. Yeah, I mean, we need to fill out our roster to be able to pull all that off.
Okay.
But we think we've got, like you mentioned, the relationship with the hospital has improved to the point where we are getting some calls.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So when I'm looking at the average calls, we had been up from the previous year, but December, January, February had really low call volume. We averaged 119 calls over the course of those 3 months, which that has a big effect on getting it down to 165. Otherwise, we were pretty level with last year. You know, and the number of calls we can't control. It just is what it is.
Better.
Better for the people in the community.
Right.
Yeah.
Up the transfers.
Yeah. So then we look at average billed per month, and again, we're down. And that is due to, again, December, January, February, we averaged 170,000 billed out in those months, which has a pretty big effect on getting it down, the average down to 233. Again, not a lot we can do about that other than what we've worked on is make sure we're billing for everything we should be billing for. And then the next slide is average collected per month. And this is, you know, where the billing company comes in to make sure we're maximizing what we're getting. And this, again, follows suit this time, January, which would make sense a month later, January, February, March. We had an average of $35,000 a month come in, which, you know, it's really, really low compared to where we normally are. So that brought our average way down because that was the one that had really been holding up to previous years. We should see a big jump in the next couple months now as we catch up on some of those that weren't actually being billed out during this transition with the billing company. Then next slide is percent collected per month. So this is a really important one. kind of set a target of 50% collected of what we bill out. That's probably a very aggressive goal for our community because we're very high on Medicare, Medicaid, which pays a very low percent. You know, if they're all Medicaid, Medicare, we'd get about, what would it be, Andy, 30%? So, you know, even getting paid everything we're owed on those, we're below our percentage already. So that we're probably never going to hit 50, but that's kind of been our goal. We had been around 40, 38 to 40. But again, January, February, March, our average was 23%. So that brought our average way down over that 12-month cycle. Then the final of these slides we look at is the dollars billed and collected per call per month on average. I do the 12-month rolling average versus month to month because the billing doesn't match the revenue. You know, that's why I do it over the course because then it does more. But I would have to analyze all 200 some calls per month to actually follow the money, which would be a lot of work. If you guys want me to do that, I can do it, but I think we
That's a question just for clarification of the group. So Medicare, Medicaid, is it a matter of slow pay or no pay?
It's no pay. I mean,
Yeah.
that 70% we're never going to see.
Yeah, they pay, but they tell you what they're going to pay. And then
Okay.
once they pay us, that's,
So it could be 20% of the dollar or whatever.
yeah. I mean, it's roughly 30%.
It's roughly
Okay,
30.
30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's always going to be that. And I don't think it's super delayed. Is what it is though. No, like if you look at your own statement of benefits on your health insurance, you know, you'll have your bill, you'll have the amount that the insurance company negotiates down, and then you'll have what they're going to pay, and then you might have your copay.
And so is this, I'm assuming this is similar around the state,
Yes, yeah,
and it's somewhat of maybe ebbs and flows depending on the socioeconomic age of the population.
correct.
So it's kind of hard to manage that.
Well, I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
Up here, it's not changing a whole lot. We're more of a retirement community, and
I just think it's a dilemma. We're going to have a discussion later today, but it's just, you know, people wanting more health services and
Yep.
ambulance, and in an ideal world, you would do that, but it's balancing the money with the desire. And
yeah. Well, this 30% isn't unique to Sawyer County Ambulance. It's every provider in the area, the dentist, all the doctors, that they're only seeing that too. So it's hard to make ends meet when you're getting that low for percentage on cost from that high percentage of population.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, there isn't an ambulance service that's providing the 911 that isn't getting subsidized by a local government. I mean, if you have an ambulance service that has a higher percentage of calls doing transports, they can minimize the amount of levy, but 911 service is a loss. There's just no way to cover that.
Don't say there is no 911 service that actually makes money.
Right.
All right, so moving on, the next slide just shows where the calls go or came from. And you can see there's kind of a concentric circle around the city of Hayward. City, town, Bass Lake, you know, Winter's another large one, but it's probably our next biggest community. And then the further you get away, the fewer calls there are, but the more sparse the populations are too. And that LCO number, we're starting trying to track that. It's not very accurate because it could be a township that's in the LCO calling and it's going to the township or getting recorded as a township. So these numbers come from dispatch. So we're reliant on what's input there.
So are we gonna try to make that more accurate, put it towards LCO and then take it away from the township that it's in, so it shows, you know, what's actually going to LCO?
Nicole is trying to get things as accurate as possible. I don't know that we can even ask that really, can we, Andy? I mean, if the call is coming from an address, I don't think we can,
Right, they're trying to use the address that they get to categorize the calls, but it all depends on how they get put into the CAD with the dispatcher, and then that's where it gets pulled from.
so then the next one is kind of an income statement for ambulance alone. And for as slow as fees have been coming in, we're still only 65,000 in the hole. So at this point in the year, that's not bad. We're likely to catch up. Number one, the fees will get booked back too, so it's kind of a month behind. So even though it looks not great, I'm okay with where we're at right now. The next one, our ambulance charges written off. We try not to do, well, write-offs. Once they get to a certain point, you have to write them off. So when I started tracking,
Mike, before you can
yes.
you explain what the write-offs?
So a write-off would be, it's been a year, we're just not going to collect it. We've made attempts, and that's just not going to happen. That would be a write-off. We don't have a ton a month, that's probably, the other thing this probably includes would be that 70% on a Medicare, Medicaid too, though, because they're booked at full, but we're never going to see that. So at some point, those get written off. An ambulance run probably runs about $1,500, maybe a little more, depending how far out it is and what the service was. So, we're writing off a few a month. The average, so if you look to the little graph next to the chart, which has the raw data, the green line is the running average. So it's not as volatile to the changes because it's a cumulative average. The more months you get out, the less 1 month affects it. And then the blue is month by month. So you can see we had been writing off more than the average for a while, and now March came down. One more thing, I did stick one of these on because the submission I had, I must not have changed the graph from last month. So I gave you one that has March data on it, and March was down.
Got a little lazy then?
Forgetful. I have a lot of stuff I have to switch out every month, and I forgot those two. The next one then is charges to collections. And this is the one where we don't like to do this because the billing company we're paying gets about 4% for all of the charges that we bill through them. Once they hit collections, they get, I think, 23%. So we try to keep them out of collections because they take a lot bigger chunk then. But January and February, we did put quite a bit in there. This is another one where I put on your desktop an updated version because March was down to just over 11,000 or just under 12,000. But again, they haven't been doing a whole lot of work on their end right now, so that could be part of the reason for a low number. But to date, we've put almost 700,000 to collections. And one more thing I want to point out, that items reversed kind of in the center there. That is one that they had written off, but then something happened where they actually thought they could collect it again. So there are a few months where we have some money in there. All right. And then moving on, this is new for everybody this month. One thing we wanted to look at is what percentage of calls that come into 911 we're actually billing for. There isn't always a bill. They may get there and decide, well, this doesn't really need to be a call and not bring the person in. So there always is some of that. So this first graph is raw data from January of 21 through March of 24. Each month is included on there. And the orange line, again, is a running cumulative average. So you can see we're just under 80% now. We started out just over 90 for 1 month. And then the blue line is the month-to-month percentage that we actually did. And then one thing I added, that green line that is straight, I took that straight across at the point we switched billing companies to LifeQuest. So I kept that level from December of 21. So that just kind of shows that since we have switched, our percentage, and this isn't on the billing company, this is internal, but it's our percentage billing on calls that come in has gone down. And then since we switched, and again, it shouldn't have anything to do with the billing company, but we've been a lot more of a spread from the running average. So that's kind of what I'm showing there. See, the first year, the blue didn't deviate much from the orange, which is the running average. Ever since then, it's been up and down quite a bit. One other thing I want to point out, you can see an asterisk from January of 21 through April of 20 or 22 to April of 22, and they're all down. That is when we switched billing companies, and they did not bill at all January through March. So what I did is I took all of January through April's dispatch calls and the April billing that we did once we caught up with all that. It was 400 and some, and did an average for each of those, and then took an average percent. So that's why that has an asterisk by it. So any clarifications needed on this one? This is a new one we're looking at. All right, so then next, this is by year dispatch calls versus billed runs. So the green bar is the dispatch calls, and you can see a downward trend from 22 to 24. And 24, obviously, we're only 3 months in. But even 21 to 22, 22 to 23, the calls we're getting is going down. And then the tan bar are the calls that we actually billed out. And that's going down. But 22 actually took a big drop. And the percentage then that you see is the percent billed each of those calendar years. So 21, we're at 85, dropped down to just under 70, and then back up to 80 again. And then we're low in 24, which I'm not putting much stock in right now because they haven't billed out yet a lot of the stuff. So any questions on this one?
Why would there be a run or say a dispatch call and that it wouldn't be billed? I mean, example.
I'm not a medic, but they can get there and decide, well, this person called, think they had a heart attack, it's indigestion or something. I don't think they'd make that call, but that's the only one I could think of.
It could be lots of times it's an accident. So there's an accident, they could roll the sheriff's department, they ask for an ambulance, get to the scene, there's nobody actually hurt. So usually we only bill if the staff puts their hands on the patient.
Oh, dispatch, this is more ambulance when it can say dispatch calls, but this is ambulance, not say
It's both.
officer type stuff.
Not officer.
Yeah. No, this is when an ambulance has been dispatched, and then how many of those calls?
Yes, it's the ambulance only portion of dispatch.
Right.
That's what you're asking.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
All right, so then the next one is the same information, only the 12-month running totals like I talked about with all the other stuff. And here you can see it's actually more consistent. We started out at 79, dropped to 74, we're back up to 79 again as a percentage. The number of calls is still down each month. or each year. But the 12-month cycle does make a difference with the data. Right, and then my final one, this is just comparing January, February, and March in each of 21, 22, 23, and 24, because that's the data we have for 24, is those first 3 months. And again, it's comparing the running average versus that month. So you look at January of each year, the bars are the same because the running average was the same as the number of, or the percentage for that month. But then as you go, it varies. And as, again, pointing out in 21, it was very consistent. There wasn't a lot of variation from the running average, and the number of calls were higher both for dispatch and what we build out. And then there's a big drop in January of 22, kind of crept back up. But then since then, it just has varied a lot. The percentage build. Any questions on that? That's all I have for ambulance and the meeting as a whole.
Thanks, Mike. Good job. Any future agenda items we proposed? Any correspondence, reports, conferences and meetings? Anything to add, Andy or anyone? Stacy?
Well, I was at a community active shooter for festivals discussion last week. I think it was Friday. And, we get into the talking of the billing of ambulance, but John, Mr. Frommel really led well on what we would do in a festival situation with an active shooter. And I think those kind of things should be applauded. I mean, I know that we are frustrated with the ambulance billing, but they are going to show up. And he knew exactly where to place his men. And it was just phenomenal of the knowledge that our county employees had of what to do during that time. So I just wanted that to be noticed.
That's great to hear. Thank you. Anything else? If not, meeting adjourned. Thank you.